Yeah, but there is something about that as well. Because why? Let me. Why do you think you guys won?
Oh, listen. I could say many things. The reality of the situation is that we had a fantastic coach.
You can't.
The reality of the situation is that maybe some of the best fighters have been plucked from the US before, but you do have a much bigger population.
That's what I was gonna say.
Say again.
That's what I was gonna say. I was like, I think a lot of those US guys were eaten up already by bigger promotions. So
yeah, but still, we still won. So you sound like a sore loser there, Lewis. But anyway, so there's a possibility of that. So we'll see what happens at the weekend. Official prediction and breakdown of the fight from myself, as I would say the leading Fox Sports analyst out there. Definitely. Even though I don't never win the awards, in my mind, I'm the leading Fox Sports analyst. Here's how it's gonna go. Yoel always starts strong, so he's going to come out, he's going to look to land bombs, and eventually maybe look to get a takedown. The problem is that Yoel swings wildly. He's not an accurate striker. He's not a polished striker. He's a wrestler with insane power. Okay, so with that insane power, you can get a lot of knockouts. Of course you can. He's capable of swinging or throwing a kick or throwing a flying knee and getting a knockout. Okay, he really can. So he has confidence in throwing that. But what he doesn't do, he doesn't bring his hands back to his chin to protect himself afterwards because he's so invested in trying to get that knockout. He swings like crazy. He misses the target, and his hands just go down to his waist prior to them coming back to his chin. Okay? He's not a polished striker. Effective, yes, because he's a big, powerful motherfucker. But he's not polished. Now, against a counter striker and somebody that's not a wrestler like Robert Whittaker, he's going to have a hard time because Whittaker, if he's smart, he's going to use all of that space in the octagon. He's going to dance around. He's going to let Romero come at him swinging. And every time he doesn't bring those hands back to his chin, Whittaker's going to start picking him apart. Boom, boom. Just little shots here and there, but they start to add up as the fight goes along. He may get Whittaker down on occasion, but Whittaker we saw against Jacare is pretty good at getting back to his feet. I'm assuming he'll get back to his feet. What Whittaker's not going to do is look to take the fight to the floor, right? Chris Weidman, Derek Brunson, a lot of people, they try and wrestle against Romero. The reason they try and wrestle is because they think, okay, force him to wrestle, make him tired, then he'll be a sitting duck and we take him out. Also, the reason that they wrestle is because they're shit in their pants. Chris Weidman was trying to out-wrestle a gold medalist at the Olympics. He's a far better wrestler than Chris Weidman. Chris Weidman kept going back to that single-leg takedown time after time after time because he was scared of getting knocked out. He was scared of standing with him. If you're wrestling, if you got your hands on each other, it's not as daunting a prospect. You might lose the wrestling exchange and end up on your back, but you're not getting your head knocked off your shoulders. Weidman kept trying to do that, got predictable, got caught with a flying knee. Whittaker ain't going to do that. He's going to dance around, as I say. And as the fight draws on, as Romero slows down, as his punches get more and more labored, and his chin is in the air and he's breathing harder, that's when Whittaker's going to turn it on. And I think rounds 4 or 5, when Romero's really tired, that's when we'll see Robert Whittaker take him out and be the new interim champion.
Whoa. That is great analysis. Great analysis.
That's what I think. Or Romero knocks his fucking head clean off in the first round.
Flying knee, 9 seconds. Romero comes, Michael, I come for you, Michael.
You've got to remember, Whittaker got knocked out against the welterweight, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Wonderboy's great fighter, no shame. Spinning wheel kick, if I'm not mistaken. And after that, came back up to middleweight. So, could Romero knock him out? Yeah, of course he could. Of course he could. But I see, it going down, like I said a moment ago.
Yeah. Who would you rather fight from like almost like a strategic? Let's say you're your coach. You're coaching Michael Bisping. Who's the guy that you want Michael Bisping to fight? Forget who you want to fight personally.
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
right?
Yeah. For me, I guess stylistically, Robert Whittaker. Robert Whittaker would be stylistically probably a better fight for me because and a better fight to train for. It's more in my skill set, my wheelhouse. That's what I do. I'm a striker. I'd beat Whittaker very, very comfortably. Also, training for it wouldn't be as much of a pain in the ass. I don't think Whittaker's a southpaw. Southpaws are always a pain in the ass. And just finding the wrestling the pedigree of wrestler that you need to find. So when you start in a training camp, you've got to think about who you're going to train with. And obviously you're fighting a guy like Romero, you need to find good wrestlers. Now, of course, good wrestlers are around, but good wrestlers that can punch, that can throw a strike and then go into the wrestling, they're kind of difficult to find, especially guys that want to come back week after week and get punched in the face. So it becomes a very difficult training camp. It becomes a headache finding those training partners. And also the training, what you got to do is a lot of getting back to your feet, a lot of starting the fight on the ground, and you got to work back to your feet, a lot of submission work. I like to throw punches. I'm a kickboxer. I'm a boxer. That's what I like to do. So when you're training for a big wrestler, it can be problematic in training camp. And then also the problem with that is that you start working on so many things to negate the wrestling. It can start to have an effect on your striking, because you go in there and all you're expecting is the guy to shoot on you. And then he doesn't shoot on you. He starts throwing punches. You're like, holy shit, you're not supposed to be doing this. You're supposed to be trying to take me down. So it becomes a big mindfuck as to what he's going to do. Whereas if you're fighting a guy that's predominantly a striker, you know what you're going to get. There isn't really going to be any surprises.
This is very interesting. So what do you think the odds are for this fight?
No idea, but I did see somewhere that Whittaker was actually the favorite. Is that correct?
Yeah, he's a little bit of a favorite.
You know why that is?
Because a lot of people are betting on him? I don't know. Well,
maybe that, but because he knocked out Jacare.
Yeah, that's crazy. I would assume if I blindly guessed that, I would assume that Romero would be a very heavy favorite. Not very heavy, but like minus 175 or something like that.
Yeah,
sizable.
Listen, but what you got to realize, and this is what people don't know, you've got to stop looking at someone's physique and thinking, "Wow, he looks so scary." That's not how we operate as fighters. If you operated like that, if that was what we thought, we'd never fight. We would never fight somebody. Because come fight night, we're all in good shape. Yeah, of course, Romero has a very impressive physique. He's a physical specimen. He looks like he should be a bodybuilder or whatever. People look at that, and of course, he's got some good knockouts on there as well. Chris Weidman, one or two others. But he gasses as well. He does gas. But you've got to remember, we don't look at people and think, wow, he looks really tough. Yeah. It's not like when you're at school and you look at them. We don't give a fuck. We're fighters, and we sign up to do this. We believe in ourselves. We train. So when people from the outside, they're looking at Romero thinking, wow, he looks so impressive. He's so jacked. He's so muscular. We don't think like that. Fighters should not think like that. You don't look at their appearance and judge a book by its cover.
And there's no part of you. What about like reputation, or what about win loss is everything? Do you kind of look at every dude the same? There's just another dude standing across from you. You're going to implement your will, or do you just you have to kind of look at it case by case, because there has to be dudes that are just scarier than other dudes. Romero's a scarier dude than, I'm trying to think of somebody else at like middleweight who's just not that scary.
Whittaker, he's not scary. He's Tim Nice but dim. He's like...
Yeah, but I look at Whittaker's accomplishments.
Like, the guy next door. You know what I mean? He looks, he's a kid. Romero does look like a big, scary, bloody, juiced out maniac, with a bloody cross on his back, going around trying to convert everybody to Christianity. He looks like a mental patient. But that said, as fighters, I remember... when I used to kickbox back in the day, and I'm from the, northwest of England, and we used to go out kickboxing, and everyone would be like, "Ooh, you're fighting him, or he looks so scary," and they say, "Oh my God, he's black. Have you ever fought a black man before?" Because I'm like, "What do you mean? Oh, he's so scary." I'm like, "What do you mean? What are you talking about?" People look at it differently. If you're a fighter, you don't really think like that. Yes, of course, you size up your opponent, you do, and you think, "Oh, he looks in shape," or "He's bigger than what I thought he was." But if you're thinking, "Oh, he's scary, he's got a good six-pack and he's got some really defined biceps," then you're probably in the wrong game.
Yeah.
You can't look at them though and say he's in shape. He looks like he's in shape. You can compare him to his appearance maybe, a couple of fights ago and say, "Oh, he's definitely in better shape this time," or "He's looking a little bigger. He looks like he's lifted more for this one," or "He looks like he's done more cardio." So therefore you can kind of figure out, whether or not you think that they're going to be in better cardio shape or they're going to be stronger. Or I've heard they've done a lot of wrestling for this one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can formulate ideas and expectations based upon things like that, but you never look and think, oh, he looks scary.
What about...
Not at this point, man. Not at this point. After so many fights. And I would say that most people don't, when you get to a certain level. So, yeah, as I said, Lewis, I have been training again now. And I am missing it. So I'm back in the gym almost